Welcome to our Week 14 NFL picks and predictions. We are starting with Thursday Night Football. We have probably the best Thursday night game of the year. The Lions are hosting the Packers. This is a huge game right now for the NFC North. The Lions are 11-1, Vikings are 10-2, the Packers are 9-3, the Bears are 4-8. They're probably out of the conversation. If the Packers do win this game, they are making it way more likely for either them or Minnesota to catch Detroit in the standings. The last 5 games for the Lions are this game against Green Bay, then they play Buffalo, Chicago, San Francisco, and Minnesota. They should be favored in all of those games, but 3 of those, Green Bay, Buffalo, and Minnesota, are all most likely going to be playoff teams. Chicago and San Fran, obviously their season's probably over, but Chicago has been very close to winning multiple games. They almost beat Detroit on Thanksgiving, and San Francisco still has a talented roster. They've had a lot of injuries this year, and they've had a lot of bad luck, but they still have potential to put up a fight against Detroit. This year seems to be the year of revenge for the Lions, and last year they were embarrassed by Green Bay on Thanksgiving, and I do think that they are going to take that into consideration, and they are going to do all they can to make sure that doesn't happen this year. We saw what happened when they played the Cowboys, and they were wronged by the Cowboys last year, and they absolutely piled it on this season. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think this is Detroit's year. I think it's at home. I don't think they want last year to be repeated, and I think they want to take full command of that division. I really think Detroit is the best team in the league right now, and I think they're going to win this game on Thursday night at home against the Packers. Next, we have the Dolphins hosting the Jets. Both teams right now have a losing record, and I know Dolphins fans are currently living on a prayer that they're going to win out the rest of their season and potentially make the playoffs. They got beat by Green Bay on Thanksgiving. They're currently 5-7, but if they win this game, they're going to be 6-7. They really might start getting excited about potentially stealing that 7th spot from Denver. And on the other side, New York, the last 2 games have just been really hard to watch. Well, the whole season for New York has been hard to watch. But the last 2 games, they've really just shot themselves in the foot. They get so close to winning the games, they just somehow find a different way to lose each one. They have the pieces that they need, and I know Rodgers isn't playing lights out, but there really is no excuse for them to be 3-9. And I just feel like for some reason, this is the game they're going to win, and they're just going to put the Dolphins fans, lay them down nicely, shoot the playoff dreams down, put that to rest. And I think they're finally going to get a win. Become 4-9. Their season's over either way, but I think they're going to win this game, and I think the Dolphins season's going to be officially done after this week. Next, we have the Vikings hosting the Falcons, and guys, this is the one. And I promise I do not hate the Vikings. I swear. I like the Vikings. I am happy for your success. 10-2 is awesome. Nobody expected you to have this kind of season, including, I would assume, Vikings fans. I don't have a lot of faith in them, and I just continue to see that every week. I just don't feel good about any of their wins. And I know people are saying the same things about the Chiefs, and I've defended the Chiefs, and I know that's kind of hypocritical, but I just don't know about this team. And I think this is the one, because Kirk Cousins, Kirk O'Chains, is coming back home. He's bringing his 6-6 Falcons. They desperately need this game. They desperately need this game. And this is his big reunion. Now, Kirk's not having the greatest season, and the Falcons have certainly had their ups and downs, but the Vikings have come this close multiple times to losing games they shouldn't lose if they're a legit 10-2 playoff team. And I just think that comes full circle today. I do think the Falcons are going to go on the road. I think they're going to beat Minnesota in Minnesota. Kirk's going to get his revenge, and I think we're going to bring the Vikings back to earth just a little bit. Having said all that, I promise I don't hate the Vikings. Everyone in my live streams thinks I hate the Vikings. I don't hate the Vikings. I just am a little doubtful that they're as good as their record, which is, I think, a fair criticism. Also, Minnesota's favored by 6 in this game, which I think is crazy. That just seems high. Even if they win, 6 seems high. I don't know. We'll see, but I'm taking the Falcons. Okay, this is a game I'm not sure anybody is looking forward to. The Giants are hosting the Saints. 6 combined wins between the 2 teams. Both of their seasons are completely over. Taysom Hill just had a really bad injury on the Saints. The Giants cut Daniel Jones. They really don't have anywhere to go from here. The only difference is that I think the Giants really want that #1 pick, and they are in prime position to get it right now. And that's really the only thing guiding this pick right now. I think the Saints are going to win. I think the Saints might be a little bit better of a team as well, but there's no incentive for the Giants to win football games. I'm pretty sure they're going to clean house after the season. I don't think Daboll's going to be there. Daniel Jones is already gone. Who knows what's going to happen in the front office? New York is an absolute mess right now. All they have is neighbors. They desperately need a quarterback in the draft, and I think that's what they're going to gun for. So I don't see any motive for them to win this game, and I'm going to pick the Saints on the road in New York. Next up, we have the 10-2 Eagles hosting the 3-9 Carolina Panthers. This game might look like a trap game, but I just really don't think it is. The Eagles are absolutely cooking right now. They've won 8 games in a row, and they're not just squeaking by bad teams like the Chiefs are. They are putting the beat down. They're also coming off a win in Baltimore, which is by far their biggest win of the season. Saquon looks like he's clearly the favorite for Offensive Player of the Year, potentially even MVP. And they also have a really good chance at stealing the Lions' #1 seed going into the playoffs. Philly's remaining schedule is Carolina, Pittsburgh, Washington, Dallas, and New York. That is a much easier schedule than Detroit has. So if they just win this game, take care of business, and move on, they have Pittsburgh and a couple easy dubs. They have a very, very, very good chance of taking that number 1 seed. If they can just win the games they're supposed to win. There isn't a lot to say about Carolina other than better luck next year. Bryce Young looks like he's maybe getting his bearings about him a little bit, and he's improving, I think, but their team is an absolute disaster. The front office is still horrible, and hopefully they can iron some things out before next season. Next, we have the Steelers hosting the Browns in Pittsburgh. The Steelers are 9-3, the Browns are 3-9, and with Philly losing last week to Baltimore, the Steelers are in prime position at the top of the AFC North. The Steelers lost in Cleveland in that crazy snow game 2 weeks ago, and I just have a really hard time believing that is going to happen again. They also have an incredibly hard schedule to end their season. They have this game against the Browns, then they play the Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, and Bengals to finish the year. So this game is just one they cannot lose. They have to win this game. They should win this game. They're going to be favored in this game, and they need it moving forward because they might drop 1 or 2 or 3 in the next few games. I do think it's a little bit concerning how many points their defense gave up against Cincy last week. Their defense is their pride and joy. It's what they rely on most every game, and they gave up almost 40 to Cincinnati. But on the other side, their offense is the thing I've worried about the most all season, and they put up like 40 points. So I don't know if we can criticize the defense without complimenting the offense. Maybe it was just a fluke game. It was very strange, high scoring. Cincinnati's defense is also terrible, and their offense is amazing. So it just worked out as like a perfect matchup for a shootout. I don't really know, but I do think the offensive side of the ball needs to be better at scoring touchdowns. They're one of the worst teams in the league in red zone touchdowns. I think they're 29th or 30th in scoring touchdowns in the red zone, which is why they've had so many games where they only kick field goals. And I do not think that's going to be a formula to win any playoff games. On the other side, we have Cleveland, who has been way more fun to watch with Winston rather than Watson. Way more fun. I also think they're way better. And I will be genuinely floored if they try to bring back Watson after this season. He was the worst quarterback in the league all year. Everyone seems to love Winston. I love Winston. Everyone likes watching Winston, even if you're not a Browns fan. And he, despite the random turnovers, he does give them a decent chance to win games. If they don't have someone better than Winston, he needs to be the guy. It cannot go back to Watson next year, no matter how much money they owe him. Having said that, this team is just not good enough to consistently win football games. And although they have beat Pittsburgh and Baltimore this season, they almost beat Denver. I just cannot see Pittsburgh losing 2 games this year to the Browns, especially in Pittsburgh, and especially when they need this win so bad for the division. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh at home against the Browns. Next, we have the Buccaneers hosting the Raiders. The Bucs are 6-6. The Raiders are 2-10. Listen, the Bucs have the same record right now as Atlanta, and Atlanta is currently leading the NFC South. Atlanta plays Minnesota this week, as we've discussed, and Tampa Bay has a much easier game this week against Vegas. The Raiders season is completely over. They've won 2 games. They have absolutely no chance at any playoff push, and Tampa Bay is fighting for their lives at home. I don't see any scenario where they can lose this game. They should not lose this game, and I don't think they will. Tampa had a scare last week against Carolina. They had to go to overtime to beat them, which is a little bit concerning. Hopefully they use that as a wake-up call, and they come home, play in Tampa, and take care of business against the Raiders, and they put themselves in a good spot to fight for their division. And because of that, I think Baker Mayfield and the boys are going to get the dub. And now we have potentially the worst game of the week. We have the Titans hosting the Jags. These guys have 5 combined wins so far by week 14. Trevor Lawrence is on IR officially now, so he will be out for this game and the rest of the season. I don't know how to feel at all about this game. Tennessee had a good win against Houston the other week. The Jags have not really won any games that mean anything this year. They've kept it close in some games against like Philly and Minnesota, but I just don't like them at all. I don't like Tennessee either. I don't know. This one's hard for me. I just think both of these teams are really bad at football. The only difference is Tennessee's home. The Jags lost Trevor Lawrence. I think I'm just going to pick Tennessee because I think they're slightly better, and I think they're in a little bit better of a position playing at home with their quarterback. So I'm going to pick Tennessee. Next, we have the Cardinals hosting the Seahawks, and the NFC West is an absolute madhouse right now. Seattle leads it at 7-5, but both the Rams and the Cardinals are 6-6 right behind them. I do think these teams are pretty even, and Seattle just barely beat Arizona in Seattle 2 weeks ago. I think it only makes sense if Arizona defends their home turf and takes care of them at home. If Seattle does win this game, they're going to be 8-5, and Arizona's going to be 6-7. Who knows what's going to happen with the Rams, but they play Buffalo this week, so Seattle could find themselves in a very good position if they do win this game. I just have a feeling that Arizona is not going to let that happen. I'm going to take Kyler Murray and the Cardinals even things out and make this division even more interesting going into week 15. Speaking of the Rams, they are playing this week at home against the very hot Buffalo Bills. And listen, this does have all the makings of a trap game, and enough so that it is making me a little bit nervous about Buffalo. The Rams are fighting for their absolute lives right now. Like I mentioned, they're 6-6. They're desperately fighting for their division. They're playing at home. Buffalo's on an absolute high right now. They've won 7 straight games. Everyone is picking them for the Super Bowl now. It just feels like that game where they look past it. They think they're going to fly into LA and take care of business and potentially run into something different. I think the Bills are clearly a better team. I do not think that's up for debate. Obviously, that is, I think, widely known across the league. The Bills are one of the best teams in the league right now. I think in any other circumstance, I would take Buffalo every time. I just think this is weird. I just think it looks weird. I think the Rams need it very bad. They're at home. It just feels like a trap game. I don't know what to say. Every week there's going to be some weird upsets, and I think this is my big upset that I'm going to take this week. I think the Rams are going to do it. I think Sean McVay is going to have them prepared. I do think he's a better coach. If this was in Buffalo, it'd probably be a different story. But for some reason, I think I'm going to take the Rams at home against the Bills, and we'll see. We'll see. Next, we have the Niners hosting the Bears in San Francisco. The Bears are coming off 6 straight losses, although the last 3 against the Lions, Packers, and Vikings, all divisional opponents, have been by less than 3 points. They've been so close to pulling off wins against divisional opponents that I think most people consider much better than them. The Niners, on the other hand, have been absolutely cursed this year. CMC is out for the year again, and they have had injury after injury and bad luck after bad luck. Listen, everything is telling me the Bears cannot go into San Francisco and get a win. Everything about that just seems wrong. Historically, it just seems like probably would not happen. But Eberflus is gone. And if all of those losses for the Bears were what they needed to get him out of there, I think it was probably worth it. The Bill Simmons new coach theory is now in play, and the Bears are 10 points away from having 4 more wins than they currently have right now. They have been in many, many close games this year. And I think one of the differences is that San Francisco, I really do think they just want to get out of here. I think they want the season over. I think they want to reset. I think they want to get healthy, and I think they want to come back next year. And I think they're looking at this season as just an overall fluke, which it probably is. And the Bears, I think that they feel like they're better than their record. I even think they're better than their record. And they got rid of Eberflus, and they probably have a new energy. And Caleb is getting better. And even though they're not going to make the playoffs, they do have something to play for. If they keep playing better and go into next season with momentum, I think they have a good chance to have a much different year next year. So because of that, I do think I'm going to take the Bears. I just think they have better energy about them. I think they're excited about their new coach, or lack of previous coach, whichever you want to put it. And I'm going to take the Bears going into San Francisco and getting a win. Then we have Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs are hosting the Chargers in Kansas City. There has been a lot of noise about the Chiefs and how they're winning games and why they're winning games, and if they're getting help from the refs or if they're getting lucky, or whatever way you want to put it. However you look at it, they're 11-1 right now. The Chargers are 8-4, and this is a very big game for both teams. I think a lot of people want to discredit what the Chiefs have done this season, and rightfully so. It's the same thing I said about Minnesota earlier. They're not necessarily winning games in a way that makes you feel super confident about them, and that's fair. They've scraped by a couple bad teams. They barely beat Carolina. They barely beat Vegas in the last 2 games. So I completely understand that, and I do understand that portion of the concern. And I think people are very excited about the Chargers right now. I think a lot of people like Harbaugh. I like Harbaugh. Herbert's playing very well. They have a different energy about them than they have in the past. I do think they have potential to make a playoff push, but I do think everyone's picking the Chargers to win this game simply because no one feels super confident about Kansas City, and everyone's feeling pretty good about the Chargers. And I think people are expecting for the Chiefs' luck to finally run out and flip the other way. And I know I've been kind of a Chiefs apologist this year. I promise I'm not a Chiefs fan. I don't like them. I do think people are being a little bit harsh, for a team that's 11-1 and has won 2 Super Bowls in a row and did have a slow season last year and still won a Super Bowl. I think we just might need to pump the brakes a little bit on all the criticism, saying that they're not good. Like they might have gotten lucky a few times, that's fair, but they're a good football team, and they are still the Chiefs, and they still have all the pieces that they have. So I'm still taking the Chiefs. It's Sunday Night Football. It's a very big game. It's in Kansas City, and everyone's picking the Chargers. I just think that's a recipe for the Chiefs winning. And who knows how it happens? Who knows how close it is? But I'm going to take Kansas City to beat the Chargers at home on Sunday Night Football. Okay, and last, and unfortunately, our Monday Night Football game is the Cowboys hosting the Bengals. And these are 2 teams who have a 3% chance at making the playoffs. One of them, Cincinnati, probably would want to make the playoffs. Cowboys, on the other hand, I would just prefer we just sit the rest of the season out. The Cowboys don't have Dak. The Bengals don't have a defense, and this game is just going to be an absolute nightmare to watch. I mean, the Cowboys can't even tank correctly, which is just a reflection of, my entire life as a Cowboys fan. Having said all that, the Bengals offense is electric no matter what, no matter who they play, and no matter how bad their defense is. And I don't think the Cowboys offense is good enough to take advantage of that bad Bengals defense. The Bengals have lost multiple games in absolute shootouts this year, and I just don't think the Cowboys are built for a shootout. I don't think we're putting up 30 to 40 points. Cincinnati easily could. So I'm taking the Bengals. Honestly, at this point, do I want the Bengals to win? Potentially. What is the point of winning games at this point? Cooper Rush is not going to win us any playoff games at all, and we're not going to make the playoffs. It would be an absolute long shot to make the playoffs. And even if we could, do we want to? What is the benefit here? I don't know. So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know where I am with the Cowboys right now. It's been an absolute terrible season. It's an absolute disaster. But I will pick the Bengals to win this game on Monday Night Football. And I would suspect there's not going to be that many people excited to watch this game. Okay, those are our Week 14 picks of this season. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy this content. We are live on YouTube for all primetime games. And we also do picks and predictions and NFL tier lists probably once a week. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like if you enjoyed it. And I will see you in the next one.